So let's say you started playing Warhammer or any other tabletop miniature game, but don't have any terrain. Playing on a flat table gets old very fast, so let's build some hills. We're only going to use basic materials and tools and no complex skills, so even if you're an absolute beginner, you can get these together and enjoy new tactical frontiers. To begin with, we're going to need something to make up the bulk of the hill. I used expanded polystyrene for this. It's great for filling up bulk. I buy this in sheets, but if all you have are pieces of packing foam, you can easily glue or tape them together to make up a shape. Now, the only clean way to cut this is with a hot wire cutter, but since we're doing this in beginner mode, this is how you do it without making a mess. Grab a bin liner, put a piece of wood or thick card inside it, and this is just so you don't cut through it. Now, put the foam in and start chopping. You're still going to make a mess, but it will be contained in the liner. Don't worry about getting clean edges, having a bit of roughness will help in a second. I wanted rocky hills, so I needed some rocks. You can use wood bark for this, or you can buy rock molds, but you can easily make your own. Grab a sheet of aluminium foil and fold it over so it's 4 layers thick. Now scrunch it up a little. Not too hard, because you need to unfold it again. Fold and tuck the sides up to make a little tray, and that's our homemade rock mold. The creases you get when you scrunch it up will make a pretty good rock texture, and they're very random. To cast the rocks you can use plaster of Paris, but I used polyfiller here because I had it to hand. You can use plaster as per instructions, but you need to make the filler a bit runnier than the instructions suggest so you can pour it easily. Leave that to dry. You'll know it's set when it goes completely white. That's when I pop them out. We don't need them to come out in one piece, so don't worry if they break like this. The drying time takes a while, so what I like to do when I make a batch is make a whole lot more than I need, so I always have more available for future projects. We're going to need some modeling compound to stick these to the foam. You can buy that ready, but you can easily make your own using some toilet paper. Grab 3 rolls of toilet paper, then take one away and put it somewhere safe. That's so you don't accidentally use the last roll in the house. Cut the toilet paper off the cardboard roll and put it in a bucket, then cover it with water. You can really use any kind of paper or card, but toilet paper breaks down a lot more easily. Just make sure it's clean. We're making beginner terrain, not shitty terrain. Once it's covered, pulp it up with your hands. You could use a blender, but I'm not a fan of using stuff I cook with for terrain, and I don't have a blender just for terrain use. I like to leave this to soak at least overnight, longer if I'm using different kinds of paper. So I usually throw in some salt and a dash of white vinegar so it doesn't start to stink. After a while, I fish the pulp out with a sieve and put it into a tray. It's still full of water at this point, so I grabbed handfuls and squeezed the water out. At this point you should be able to break it down into small flakes. They'll still be wet, but you don't need them to be bone dry to use them. However, they do need to be absolutely dry before you store them anywhere, or they'll go moldy. To use this, I mixed it up in equal parts with water and polyfiller. The best way to mix them is to add the water to the paper pulp first, and mix that till you have a sludgy mess. Then you can start adding polyfiller to it and kneading it, till it feels like cottage cheese. If you mix all the ingredients at once, a lot of the filler will run off and sink to the bottom, which isn't ideal. This way it's spread out all through the mix. Once you have everything mixed, it's important not to sleep on it. This thing cures fast. It's not going to harden properly for a few hours, but it loses tackiness in minutes, so it's best to work in small batches. To attach the rocks, I spread some compound on the foam and gently press the rock casts into it. I then built up more compound around them to hold them in place. You don't need glue, the mix is strong enough to hold everything in place. If you wet your fingers a little, you can even shape it or smooth it to a degree. Just watch out because you can smooth it too much. It's not going to damage it, but it can look strange in the wrong places. I just kept adding compound and rocks till they went all around my pieces, then left them to dry. Again, you'll know they're dry when they go completely white. Although if you used a different color paper, that might not work out. If you cannot till they're completely dry, you need to leave them a bit longer. Before I started to paint the hills, I mixed up a primer from black acrylic paint, PVA glue, and a tiny dot of dish soap, and a dash of water. The dish soap is just to make it flow better. Don't add too much or it will make bubbles. I use this mix because PVA protects the bare foam from the sprays I use for the clear coats. The modeling compound and the polyfiller don't really need that, although I went over them anyway, hoping that the PVA would make them a bit tougher. Once that cured, I sprayed them with a wood varnish. It toughens them up and helps paint grab better. My favourite way of painting rocks is something I picked up off Geek Gaming Scenics, though a lot of people like Leif from Devs and Dice have their own variations on it. I started off with a grey base coat. Could probably have gone for a lighter shade, but this worked okay. I did the edges around the top too, because while I would be adding ground cover, I like to leave a bit of the edge exposed. Next, I started splashing very diluted acrylic paints on it. I went for brown, sienna and green, but you can use any color you like. The important thing is that these washes are very diluted. What I used here was almost dirty paint water. We're not looking to add strong colors here, just setting up some undertones. After the washes dried, I came back with some heavily watered down Payne's Grey. Not as watered down as the others, but still very diluted. I painted this over everything, making sure it got into all the crevices. Then I took a kitchen towel and dabbed away at it gently. What we want here is for it to settle into the recesses and leave the raised areas clear. The effect is more visible the lighter your base coat is, but I quite like the way it looks in most cases. Oh, and make sure you use a kitchen towel or a shop towel. A tissue or a piece of toilet paper will just stick to your work. To cover the top you could use textured paint, but allow me to suggest a dirt cheap alternative. Dirt. I mixed up 15 parts garden dirt, 1 part polyfiller and 1 part construction sand. Then squeezed in a little school glue and started mixing up, adding just a little water to make mixing easier. To make sure the components are properly mixed, I like to stir the powders a little before adding any of the other liquids. Then I dropped some on the tops of the hills and spread it out with a slightly wet brush. I like using this as it is very durable and has a lot of natural color variations and texture. You can also mix up different proportions of dirt and sand to get different colors, such as airy dirt. Just be careful about adding in too much sand or polyfiller as it will go very white very quickly, and then you'll need to paint it, which kind of defeats the point. We're nearly done with this, we just need to add some grass. I had 2 options for this. First, flock. You can find flock anywhere you can find modeling supplies, though it can be a bit expensive, so I made this myself. It looks like this when it's applied, and it's very durable. This is basically chipboard at this point. The other option is static grass, which you can also buy from modeling supply shops and you can also make yourself. I'll leave a video link in the description. I prefer the look of static grass, however I have not been using it very long, so I can't tell you how durable it is, especially if you stack other terrain on it. So if I had to offer you the safer option, it would be to go with the flock. However, I need to experiment a bit to learn more about it, so I'm going for the static grass this time. To glue it on, I put PVA glue on the piece and then drop the grass on it with my trusty sieve. Technically speaking, static grass should be used with an applicator, but so far I've had decent success with this method. And there you go, hills done. But wait, there's more! While I was making this, Art Diorama on Instagram mentioned the unpainted pieces looked like ice, so I made a little experiment and painted one up that way. Same build process, but I sprayed it white and started off with an ultramarine blue coat. From there I started dry brushing it with blue, green and white. Admittedly, the dry brush did not go as well as I'd hoped. I was using new paints here and I still need to get used to the difference, but I think the blue wash at the end salvaged the piece. To cap it off with some snow, I mixed baking powder, PVA glue and some white ink, and spread it on like forbidden frosting. I think it looks okay, but then again I've only seen snow a couple of times in my life, so I can't really tell. Still, if you've watched this far and think it looks okay, write Ice Ice Baby in the comments. Now we hopefully have some terrain, but more importantly you know how to make some crafting materials, which is always useful. And if you want to show off your creations or talk crafting, jump in on the Discord and say hello. Catch you around folks and have a great week. Bye!